There was one big question hanging over the Asian political gatherings in Bali and Brunei last week. Where's Obama? Americans still call him leader of the free world, but the President of the United States, Barack Obama, was not free to leave home due to the occasionally bizarre budget battle in the House of Congress that has shut down the government and still threatens a default by the world's biggest sovereign borrower. Perhaps, some suggested, he couldn't even afford to travel.
Obama's absence at the APEC summit that we've just had was duly noted. This at a time when the United States is talking about a pivot or now a rebalancing towards Asia. And some Asians are saying, well, what kind of a rebalancing is that if you can't even show up? You know, can I lend you a few bucks to come, Mr. Obama?
Obama's absence, however, raises much more serious questions. The financial crisis in 2008, led by the bursting of the US mortgage bubble, has already undermined American claims to economic leadership. Now, the self-destructive behavior of its Democratic representatives at home is casting doubt on its ability not only to lead, but even to engage politically in Asia. The FT's Indonesia correspondent, Ben Bland, saw this firsthand at the APEC and ASEAN summits.
Obama's no-show really is because of his dysfunctional relationship with Congress, and many people in Asia are worried that if this continues, as it seems to be, it's going to undermine US efforts to deepen their relationship politically, economically with Asian nations.
Without Obama to support discussion about disputes over who controls what parts of the South China Sea, China itself was more free to push its own agenda. Some believe this has given a boost to trade agreements driven by Chinese interests over the Trans-Pacific Partnership being led by the US and Japan.
It's definitely moved in China's favor because they managed to have a sort of sensible, quiet discussion. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping first and then Li Keqiang have been touring around Southeast Asia, doing business deals in Indonesia, in Vietnam, elsewhere in the region, Thailand as well, doing business deals, meeting key leaders, really being seen to have those kind of diplomatic boots on the ground.
In the background, Chinese voices have grown stronger in criticizing the huge role of the US dollar in the global economy, and of its treasuries as the safest and most available of financial assets. A strongly worded editorial from Xinhua, the Chinese state news service, issues a rallying cry for the de-Americanization of financial economy and international diplomacy. But many find it hard to see how the dollar can be replaced as the world's reserve currency anytime soon.
The US dollar has a tremendous first mover advantage. It has a path dependency aspect, like it's not so easy to just erode 40 years of reputation building. Also, the RMB has traditionally been hampered in being accepted around the world by the fact that China's capital account is not open and its markets are not very deep and accessible.
The story is similar for US treasuries, trillions of dollars worth of which fill the coffers of central banks around Asia and elsewhere.
Even Chinese officials or academics that are quite angry at the moment about the situation, they admit there's not much they can do about it. It doesn't make any sense to go into commodities. The euro has its own issues. So US treasuries are unfortunately still, the name of the game.
But the economic balance between the US and China is shifting inexorably, and as economic power moves eastwards, political influence will follow. While the US despoils its reputation for stability and predictability through its domestic wrangles, the danger is that its political influence evaporates more quickly.
What I do see is countries like, for example, the Philippines, in their calculations, vis-a-vis China, vis-a-vis the United States, thinking, well, how reliable a partner is the United States? And the fact that it's a democracy, but it's become, from at least from where we stand here, it looks more and more like a dysfunctional democracy. And that begins to place limits on the ability of the United States to meet what countries like the Philippines may see as its obligations, its role, its duty in this neighborhood. Its navy keeping open sea routes, its moral authority, arbitrating in disputes. And I think this sort of perennial crisis in Washington begins to kind of chip away at that.
For the Philippines and the rest of Asia, that kind of outcome is no Tea Party. Paul Davies, Financial Times, Hong Kong.